Hi everyone, I'm Oliver from Blendtuts.com, and this is a pretty special tutorial made for absolute beginners in Blender. And I'm going to do this kind of effect, this anamorphic image effect that you've probably seen before in a lot of places, like these people that do some crazy artwork in the streets, but are only cool if you watch them from the right point of view. So let's describe the process that we are going to follow in this to achieve this effect, okay? First, we need to place the cube, the real cube, in the position where we want it, over the paper, or, well, it doesn't need to be over the paper, but in this case, as the paper is white, it's better if it's a very white surface, so we can pick the shadows and everything also in the photo, okay? Then we need to take a photo from that, from the point of view that we need to project it later, once it's printed in the paper. And we need to distort it to compensate the perspective, and then we need to print it and place the camera in a similar position, not exactly the same position, because except if we take very strict measurements and we make everything completely exactly, we will need to probably change a little the position of the camera in order to compensate for that error margin that we can have when distorting the image, okay? So that's it. Let's go for the 3D part in which we distort the image. We are going to use Blender, which is an open source software that you can download for free, and well, enjoy it. To download Blender, you just need to go to blender.org, click here on the download Blender link, and you will see this page with several operating system options, okay? So pick your operating system one and download the installer or a zip archive to run Blender without installing it. So once you install Blender, you will see something similar to this once you start it up. We have a cube, we have a camera, and we have a light. So you can select objects with a right mouse button, okay? So if you right click on top of an object, you will select it. And the first thing we need to do is to delete this cube from our scene. So let's press X in the keyboard, left click to delete, and now we need to add a plane. So you can go here to the top, add mesh and plane, or here from the viewport, you can press Shift A, mesh, plane. And here we have a plane. Now we need to make the dimensions of this plane fit an A4 paper dimensions. So I'm going right here to the object panel, this little yellow cube, and here we have the scale, okay? So in the scale, we know that the dimensions of an A4 panel are 210, and here is 297. Of course, this is way too big for our scene. So what I'm going to do is to put a point here, 2.10, and here 2.97. This way we already have an A4 dimensions plane. Now we need to project the photo we have in this plane, and we are going to follow a very simple process in order to apply it to the plane, be able to see it here in the viewport, and then distort it. By default, you can pan and rotate the camera using middle mouse button and shift middle mouse button. Okay, I have these preferences changed, so I can rotate with shift middle mouse button, and I can pan with middle mouse button. If you don't know how to do this, I recommend you to check out other beginner tutorials so you can start with this and learning how to use the Blender interface, because it's a very wide subject, very big subject, and I can't cover it in this tutorial. So we are going to focus on creating the effect we want for the anamorphic images. So let's load the photo. The first step is to open up a new image editor. For doing it, we need to go to this little triangle here in the corner of this panel, okay, the 3D view, until we have that cross in the cursor. So now I can just click and drag to the right to divide the screen. Okay, you can do it as much as you can. And if you click and drag to the opposite, to another panel like this, you will get this simple arrow that will show you that these two panels will be joined. like this. Okay, so what I need to do now is to go right here, and instead of a 3D view, I want a new V image editor. This will allow us to load here an image and adjust it. So I'm going to drag and drop it from the Explorer of the operating system. Okay. You can also go here to the image menu and select Open Image and navigate in your computer until you select it and load it. So here we have the real photo of the cube. So now the first thing I want to do is to be able to see this image into the plane. So let's go for it. I can just click and drag this border to make this area smaller or bigger, so we have more space here in the 3D view. I'm going here to the materials panel and I add a new one. This one will be called anamorphic matte, for example. Okay, we can scroll again with middle mouse button. Click on shadeless because I don't want any light or shadow to affect this plane. I want it to be exactly as it is in the photo. Okay, if you want more information about this, again, I recommend you to check other beginner tutorials in about Blender. Now, we go to the textures right here next to the material panel. We add a new one. And here, instead of clouds, I want to load an image or movie. Now here in the image panel, we can just put the cursor on top of this or click it and just select the one we just loaded. There we are. Now the next thing we need to do is to keep scrolling, and here in mapping coordinates, instead of generated, put it on UV, and I'm going to explain you that now. The UV is like the internal coordinates of these polygons, so the image can be projected in a given way over the object. Okay, it's like a 2D coordinate system for the 3D object, so we can apply a 2D image in a 3D model. So we select the plane, we press Tab to enter in the edit mode, so we can see the vertices and everything. Okay, or we can also go to the edit mode from here. Instead of object mode, pick edit mode. In the edit mode, we can select everything with A in the keyboard. Everything or deselect everything. Select everything with A and press U in the keyboard. Click on unwrap. And now if we go here, we can just pan the view with middle mouse button, and with the scroll mouse wheel, we can see what the UVs are doing. This is the part of the image that is showing up in this plane. Okay, so it's okay for now because we are going to modify this later. So we go again to the 3D view and press Tab to go out from the edit mode, or go again here to the object mode. Now what I need to do is to show up this image in the viewport so we can see the effect we are achieving with it. We need to go here, and instead of solid, which is the default one, I need to add the texture one. And we are already seeing the texture. Okay, but this is the texture of the UVs, is not the material one. So I need to show up the material. I press N. I go here to the display panel, and instead of multi-texture, I activate GLSL. All right. So now with the numpad, with 7 we can go to the top view, with 1 we can go to the front view, and we can navigate with all the views from the numpad. Okay, so what I need to do now is to go here, select the plane, go to the modifiers, this wrench, add a modifier, and I'm going to add a new V project modifier. We need to add UVs to the object in order to be able to project them. Okay, so as the image, I'm going to select the one that we just loaded, and as the projector, I'm going to pick the camera. So you're seeing what's happening. If we go right here and select the camera with right mouse button, if I press G in the keyboard to move it, you can see how it's being projected. Okay, we can also left click and drag these arrows here in the viewport, and you can see what's happening. So let's place it right here, and here we can click here to rotate, and click and drag this white circle so we can rotate it, and you can see more or less the effect we are having. We click here to move. Okay. Now you can see, of course, that there is a lot of distortion here. The reason for that is that we have a very low amount of polygons here in this plane. So I need to select it, and we are going to add a subdivision surface. Okay. And I'm going to put it before, with this arrow here, I'm going to put it before the project modifier, the UV project modifier. So the model is divided before the UV project is applied to it. So instead of cut mul Clark here, I will activate simple. Okay, and I will increase the view subdivisions to something like 8 probably, which is, I think, enough. And the same for the render. So when we render, we see the same amount of subdivisions. Okay, so now we have a better deformation of the image. Now we can adjust this camera. I'm going to press Alt G in the keyboard and Alt R. All right, this will make the camera reset its position and rotation. So now I can very easily drag it into the y-axis, now into the z-axis, and we are already seeing the effect we are having here in this plane. Now let's go here to rotate it on the x-axis. Okay, something like this could be interesting. Now we go here to the camera, and if we adjust the focal length, we can also adjust the perspective in which the image is being projected. So I'm going to pick a focal length in which the camera, the borders of the paper are almost parallel to the borders of the plane we just created. Now I'm going to select the plane, and here in the modifiers again, I can go to the UV project modifier right here, and I can just tweak these values. Like you can left click and drag it to left and right to increase or decrease these values. And by decreasing and increasing them, we're going to make the cube fit in the image. Okay, that's something like this. Scale in X, so we cover all the plane with the paper. Scale in Y, just a little. And we can select the camera and move it into the Z axis until we have something like this. If you can see the image, we have a shadow. So it would be nice that we cover the whole cube until this corner and the shadow until this corner, right? And right here we are watching a little bit of the boot of the table. So maybe I can just take it more to the top. All right, something like this is perfect. Okay, so now basically we have the image that we need to print right here. So now with 7 in the numpad, we can just jump to the top view. You can also go to the top view here in view, top, okay? So here we have an A4 dimensioned plane with the image we need to print. Now we need to render this up. So we need to export this image. The thing I'm going to do here is to add a new camera with Shift A, camera, and the camera will be added right here because I just changed the 3D cursor accidentally, okay? It should be added right here in the center. If you don't have it in the center, what you need to do is to press Alt G and Alt R to reset the location and the rotation of the camera. And now I'm just going to move it into the Z axis to focus the image from the top. Okay, and I need to make sure that the plane center is here in the middle of the scene, and the camera is also centered. Okay, so the center of the camera is aligned with the center of the plane. Otherwise, the measurements later won't fit the A4 dimensions. So now we need to press, with this camera selected, Ctrl-0 in the numpad. So we jump to the new camera. All right, we make it the active camera, and this is the render that we will have, which is of course not the dimensions we want. So we go here to this little camera, the render panel, and here in the resolution we're going to set up something like let's say 2100 and 297. Okay, something like this. And as you can see, it's already taking some less space than we expected to. So what I'm gonna do is to go here to the camera options. We still have the new camera we created selected. Okay, and I'm going to make it orthographic. And when we make it orthographic, there is no perspective, so the scale of the objects doesn't change as they get far away from the camera. So in this case, as you can see, we have some little borders there, some little borders here, but we can adjust it just a little by decreasing the orthographic scale. Okay, if you press Shift while left-click dragging these values, you get to fine-tune them. So just pick some value that is covering the whole picture. All right, let's do it a little more. All right, something like this. So it's this is a little bigger, the plane is a little bigger, but we don't care because we are covering the whole image into the camera. Okay, so we already have the render we need to do. Now I just pressed F12 to make the render, and here we have the image we need to render. But now I need to make another last retouch here, because I just found that if you print this right ahead, you will probably get in the print darker image. All right, of course this depends on the kind of paper you are printing in and in your printer, of course. But in my case, for example, and I guess that in most of the cases, you will get this in the paper a lot darker than it looks here. So what I'm going to do, press Escape to go out from there, and keep in mind that you can make full screen of one view pressing Shift and Space at the same time, right? And we are working in full screen. So what I'm going to do is press Shift Space again, and here I'm going to add a node editor. Press Shift Space to work with it in full screen. And what we are going to do is to pick the final render we did and make some compositing, some color correction, so we can make it brighter. So activate here Use Nodes. Make sure you are in the compositing nodes, which are these two little images here. Right, this is the compositing nodes, these are the texture, these are the material nodes. So make sure you are in the compositing nodes. Activate backdrop, right? So now we will be able to see the image we are retouching in the background, and press Ctrl, Shift, left click on the render layers, this node here, so we can just see this. You can left click and drag the nodes around, also with the right mouse button. But right now what we are looking at in the background is the image where we are retouching, which is this one, the viewer, and the composite is the final output that we will render at the end. Okay, so now we are going to add some nodes here. Well, actually just one to increase the brightness, and we need to output that node to this composite node. Let's go for it. Shift A to add nodes. You can also add nodes from here, add. Okay, and here you have several options. So here in color, we are going to pick bright and contrast, and we drag it on top of this line. There we go. So now we can zoom in by scrolling the mouse wheel or pressing Ctrl and middle mouse button drag. Okay, so as the bright, let's do something a little crazy like 60 and 30. Well, this is too much, probably. 30 and 60. Okay, we can zoom in and zoom out the background image with V and Alt V in the viewport. So here we have something similar to what we want, because we want this part here to be almost white, okay, if not completely white, to fit the color of the paper as much as possible, okay, because if we fit the color of the paper, this will look more natural. All right, and now the last step we need to do is to click this output here with left mouse button and drop it right there. So now when we render, press F12 again. And as you can see, after rendering, it's going to color correct it to generate this image. Now we press F3, or we can go here into image and press save as image. And as you can see, we can just pick where we want to put it, anamorphic, for example, and let's place here a new folder, renders. Click, and here let's call it like final distorted image. Press enter, and we already have the image. Also keep in mind that here in the viewport you can already see if the image is working. Okay, here is the image from the top, which is distorted, of course, to compensate the perspective. But if you press Shift and middle mouse button to move the camera around, if you look at it from here, it looks like it's working. Okay, this is the effect we should see from the camera, kind of. Okay, so from the top, and if we put the camera in the right point of view, we are going to see it natural. All right, so this is a very good way to make sure that the image is working. Okay, so this is it. Now you just need to pick this image, print it, and fool your friends in front of a camera. But keep in mind that this is not only for fooling your friends. It can be used for a wide range of things. Even in cinema, it can be used to fake sceneries and everything, to fake dimensions of things by compensating this kind of perspective. So from the camera, it looks bigger or smaller. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from this tutorial, and see you soon. Happy blending!